Intro music. Welcome to News Drops, where we bring you the news with a touch of critical thought, a sarcastic slant, some passive-aggressive commentary, and a sprinkle of sanity. I'm Jack Thompson.
And I'm Sarah Mitchell. Let's dive into today's headlines that might make you laugh, or cry, or want to post a video of you displaying an emotional outburst you think everyone needs to see.
Well, folks, it looks like federal employees are getting back to basics. No more they slash them slash theirs in email signatures, just good old-fashioned names and job titles.
That's right, Jack. The CDC and other agencies have until 5 p.m. today to remove pronouns from their signatures. I guess we're finally getting our tax dollars worth. Actual work instead of grammar lessons.
You know, Sarah, I remember when email signatures just had your name and phone number. Now they're longer than some novels I've read and the words don't make sense.
And probably more dramatic too. Chuckles. But seriously, this move is part of President Trump's executive order to end what his administration calls radical and wasteful DEI programs.
Speaking of waste, imagine all the bandwidth we'll save without those pronoun novels at the bottom of every email. That's climate action I can get behind.
And get this. Some employees are actually complaining about having to simplify their signatures. I guess they'll have to find another way to express their uniqueness. Maybe through actual work performance? Moving on to Hollywood, where Paramount might be reaching for their checkbook faster than a contestant on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
You mean Who Wants to Avoid a Lawsuit? Laughs. Tell us more, Sarah.
Well, it seems Paramount is considering settling Trump's $10 billion lawsuit over that CBS 60 Minutes interview with Kamala Harris. Looks like 60 Minutes might need a new stopwatch. Their editing seemed a bit creative.
Ah yes, when 60 Minutes became more like 60 seconds of context, and now they might have to pay more than 60 billion pennies.
The interesting part is that Paramount's apparently worried about their merger with Skydance. Nothing motivates Hollywood quite like a blockbuster deal at risk.
You know what they say, in Hollywood everyone has a price and it usually includes at least 9 zeros. Speaking of media shakeups, Chuck Todd is saying goodbye to NBC News, and this time it's not just for a commercial break.
That's right, Jack. After being replaced as Meet the Press moderator last year, Todd's now fully exiting stage left. Or is it stage right? Winks.
He says he's leaving because national media isn't the place to win back trust. Well, that's one way to meet the press. At the exit door.
And get this, he's taking his podcast with him. Because apparently, what the world needs is another podcast by a former news anchor.
You know what they say, when one door closes, another podcast opens.
Now here's a story that's making waves, literally. Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum is getting salty over Google potentially renaming the Gulf of Mexico.
Oh, the irony of trying to control what Google names things. What's next, asking them to rename the Pacific Ocean the Red Wave Ocean?
She even suggested renaming the United States Mexican America based on a 1607 map. Talk about a creative geography lesson.
Well, I guess when you can't control your borders, you try to control Google Maps instead. And speaking of Google Maps, the tech giant has announced they'll be following official government sources for geographic names.
That's right, Jack. Google says they'll update their maps when official sources change. Though I hear they're still working on locating their own moral compass.
At least they're consistently confusing. Remember when they couldn't decide if their motto was "Don't be evil" or "Do the profitable thing"?
In immigration news, Colombian President Gustavo Petro has made an unusual request to undocumented Colombians in the U.S. He wants them to come home.
Well, that's one way to solve the immigration crisis. Just ask nicely. Seems a conversation with the Donald has him changing his mind, so he'll take his people and the criminals he tried to offload and give them back their residency in Colombia.
He's even offering credits through their Department of Social Prosperity. Because nothing says welcome home like government debt.
I hear they're calling it the No Place Like Home program. Dorothy from Kansas would be proud. I'm sure they'll miss the Colombian gangs in Michigan that set up break-ins throughout the Detroit area. It was the Biden team that told them they'd be welcomed in Michigan. We know you can't work, so just go ahead and break into the people's homes. You can take whatever you want. I think the logic was it would be good for the economy as well. Moving to Washington, where the Department of Justice is asking for a list of FBI employees who worked on January 6th cases.
Talk about your employee performance reviews. This might be the biggest HR meeting in FBI history. Ray Epps was seen outside of the Hoover campus with a megaphone chanting, "Tomorrow we need to get into the building. Into the building." Good ol' Ray, never charged with anything. I think it's because the January 6th committee headed by Liz Cheney said he was never there. And the videos capturing him were just shots of him at a Cleveland Browns game. He's a big fan. She also said that any of those videos needed to be destroyed because in correspondence with the Hillary Clinton Computer Data Act, which says you can destroy any significant case data, if you feel like it.
And they want the employee list by Tuesday afternoon, because nothing says thorough investigation like a 72-hour deadline.
I guess FBI now stands for FUBAR Institution. The BRICS nations are part of the tariff targets as well. Stop messing with the US dollars. It's like a global game of economic musical chairs, except nobody knows when the music stops. And everyone's invited. Canada at 25%, Mexico at 25%, China at 10%, even Denmark. Look, Denmark, just sell Greenland. You'll get a good bunch of billions, and we get some good ice, polar bears, and some senior tourist stops. In economic news, President Trump has announced new tariffs coming this weekend. It's like Black Friday for international trade. In sports news, UFC fighter Bryce Mitchell is in hot water over some controversial comments and some Hitlerisk saluting.
And UFC President Dana White's response? Basically, let him fight and get his comeuppance in the octagon. He also actually had to let Mitchell know that Hitler was not a good person. Evil, in fact.
Mitchell, having been educated in the woke level, U.S. public education, said he was just concerned about DEI representation.
Now that's what I call getting your money's worth out of public education.
Moving to entertainment, Selena Gomez posted, and then quickly deleted, an emotional video about ICE operations.
Ah yes, another celebrity capturing her emotional distress. All that sobbing while setting up a camera, correcting the angle of capture, assuring the cry is still going on, pushing the start feature, knocking the camera over, resetting it, still crying, assuring all the deep, sincere emotion isn't wasted, hitting the start feature, crying some more, then pushing every stored acting sad emotion for the world to see. Might be a video Oscar in there for her.
She said she doesn't know what to do. These are her people, she claimed. Maybe she should just have them come to her place for a barbecue and get some tent city going. Or let the government enforce the laws that Mayorkas chose to ignore and skip the made-up drama.
From the biggest loser to political endorsements, Jillian Michaels is throwing her support behind RFK Jr.
She says he wants to make America healthy again. I guess that's what you call a political workout plan.
And she's even giving health tips for 2025. Step 1, walk 10,000 steps away from processed foods.
Scientists are warning about a possible underwater volcano eruption off the west coast.
Finally, some real climate change we can see. Though I hear California's trying to tax the volcano for carbon emissions. Well, they want to blame the oil companies for their fires. I see an alignment because they are suggesting the problem lies with Republicans because they are walking and running, which is causing the earth to vibrate. The logic being, Democrats tend to cycle or skate, which reduces vibrations.
The volcano's peak is 4,900 feet below the ocean surface, which is about the depth of the government deep state, which is much darker and murkier.
Speaking of things in the sky, mysterious fireballs were spotted over the southern U.S. last week.
Goodness gracious. Great balls of fire. Was it a meteor? Space debris? A really aggressive marketing campaign?
Turns out it might have been a Chinese satellite. Talk about your international fireworks show. They've taken to lighting the skies with their drifting spy balloons.
And finally, Detroit Mayor Mike Dugan is refusing to apologize for using the term illegal immigrants.
Imagine that, using legally accurate terminology and refusing to apologize for it.
He said he won't succumb to political correctness. In Detroit, that's what they call standing your ground. The good mayor has managed his city well since the days of Kwame Kilpatrick, and he's not about to be tricked into semantics to posture for media noise.
And that's all for today's news drops. Remember folks, sometimes the news is so crazy you have to laugh to keep from crying.
Join us tomorrow for more headlines that make you go, seriously? I'm Sarah Mitchell.
And I'm Jack Thompson. Stay sane, America.